Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about what it was like for me to be living in my car for I guess it was like 3-4 months or something like that, while also completing my last semester of college. So I guess here's a little story. Back in, I believe it was July, I decided to put all my stuff in a storage unit and convert my Honda Civic into a camper. So I took out my passenger seat and then built a platform and put a mattress in there, took out the back seats and made it so I could sleep on the passenger side. I'm going to attach a video probably here maybe of showing what it looked like inside. I think the video I have of the inside is the only footage I have of the inside of my car. Now it doesn't exist in my car, it's just like empty. I took everything out of my car since I have a place now. But let's talk about how I did the trip and how I was able to live out of my car and complete my last semester of college. It was like taking my upper division classes, so they were pretty difficult, but I did it. I think I got straight A's actually. Yeah, I think I ended up on the Dean's Honor Roll. I used this app called Road Trippers, yeah, and this is where I planned out my itinerary and the route I wanted to take and all that stuff, and it would estimate how much like the gas would cost, etc. So I started off in Tahoe. So I'll give you guys like my route kind of. So I started in Northern California. Started in Northern California, then headed my way up to Lassen Volcanic National Park. Went to the Redwoods, then made a bunch of other stops. I'm just giving you guys a little gist of the route. Went to Oregon, visited probably 8 different waterfall trails. Visited Crater Lake, which I highly recommend. I'll add a little photo right here. Did some hot springs. There's a bunch of waterfalls. Like I'm looking here on my list and it's just a bunch of trails of waterfalls I wanted to go on. Then I made my way to Washington, where I visited Mount Rainier National Park, and that's a really nice national park, and all the flowers were blooming at that time. Then I made my way to Glacier National Park, which is in Montana. And then around Montana we had Yellowstone, the Grand Springs and the geysers and all that stuff. We have the Grand Teton National Park. I went there. Still in Wyoming. Then I made my way to South Dakota, where I visited the Wild Cave. Actually, no, the Wind Caves. It was actually closed, if I remember correctly, but I still went there. It's like a huge underground system of caves. But then I went to the Badlands National Park, and that was open, and that was really nice park. Had some photos there. Went to the Theodore Roosevelt National Park, and that was I think I did one trail there because it looked very similar to just anything you would see anywhere else, to be honest. I try to go to this national park. It's called the Voyageur National Park, and I think it's on an island near Canada, if I'm correct. It was somewhere, but that was closed, or I needed a canoe to get across the water, so I ended up not doing that. But I went to the area where I could see it, the docks and whatnot, So yeah, they were known for their dark skies as well. So I stayed on the dock and watched the stars. So after that, I made my way to Minnesota, hit those stops over there, then headed towards the Great Lakes, and I just drove around that coast, stayed there for a few days as well. Then I made my way all the way to Wisconsin, then Illinois, visited Chicago, then in Michigan and Indiana, there's like one national park, I believe it was like the Sand Dunes, which I only spent a little time there because there were so many people there. It was like, I don't know, and this was during COVID, so I just like took a few pictures and left. It was like a busy beach, but it was called the Sand Dunes National Park, but it was just the beach, I guess. Then I went to Niagara Falls in New York, some state parks. The Watkins at Glen State Park was a really nice experience. I had a photo because I really liked that one. It was like a couple miles and it looked like an ancient city. Just how the hike was and how the trail was built, it looked super cool. Then in New York, I went to the Bolts Castle. This was like a super rich guy way back then, and he built this huge castle on its own island for like his wife. But then, yeah, it didn't really end well, but the castle was still built anyways, and it's super cool. Visited the state park in Vermont. Then made my way to Maine, where they had the Acadia National Park. Stayed there for a while, I would say like 2 weeks or so. Then made my way all the way down to Virginia and visited the I don't know how to pronounce it, Shenandoah National Park. Yeah. Then from there, I went to the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, visited the Parthenon in Tennessee, went to the Mammoth Caves in Kentucky, and made my way to Arkansas, where I visited the Hot Springs National Park. I think I spent like a day there, since it's mainly known for its like, what is it? It's the hot springs, but it's called like the bath houses or whatnot, where you have to pay a bunch of money to go in like hot water, pretty much. In Texas, I'm trying to remember what I did. Oh, I went to the Carlsbad Caverns and the Guadalupe Mountains National Park. And then I headed my way up to New Mexico, where I visited the UFO Museum in Roswell, which was really cool and interesting. From there, I went to the White Sands National Park in New Mexico still. Then drove all the way to, Colorado. Drove to Colorado, where I visited the Mesa Verde National Park. It was like an ancient dwellings of people who lived like in the cave, not the caves, like on the side of the cliffs. It was really cool. But they had it blocked off, so you couldn't like go on that trail to get up close, but you could still see it from a distance. Then from there, I went to the Black Canyon of Gunnison National Park. I think, there, I spent like a day or two, because at the time I didn't realize this, but when I left the park, I noticed like these things in the skies. Like, it was at nighttime at this point, and I was like, what is that? Like, it was so strange. Like, it looked like a UFO type of thing, since the previous day I was in Roswell or whatnot, so I was like thinking UFOs, aliens. So when I was at this national park, some crazy stuff was happening in the sky, and I was like, whatever, I gotta get out of here. eventually I get to up like 30 minutes away and I finally have service. I look it up and I guess it's like a meteor shower that happened to be that day. So I drove all the way back up to the canyon and stayed there for another hour or two and just watched the meteor shower. It was a really cool, unique experience. And yeah, it was bizarre. After that, I went to the Great Sand Dunes National Park, also in Colorado. And that's when I visited the Garden of the Gods. It's kind of like red rock formations. There's people like rock climbing, and this place was free from what I remember. The person who like owns the land, he's like bought it for his like children or something, and he wanted it to be free to everyone. Yeah. And then from there, I remember in Colorado, it was the first time I really experienced like snow on the trip. We got a winter storm warning, so I ended up booking a hotel, like motel type of thing, the cheapest place I could find, and I stayed there until the storm was over, since I didn't want to drive in the storm because the snow was pretty harsh. I think I ended up staying at that place for like 4 or 5 days. I think I spent Halloween, maybe. I'm trying to remember. I don't know. But eventually the storm ended and it was like it was clear again. And I found out that the Rocky Mountains during that time, literally I would say the day of or before the snow or something, that's when the wildfire happened in the Rocky Mountains. So they ended up closing the Rocky Mountains, so I didn't get to experience that place. Which was unfortunate. Afterwards, I headed to Utah, where I visited the Arches, the national park, the Canyonlands National Park, which is right next to it. So it's all those rock formations, etc. Made my way to the Capitol Reef National Park, which I'm trying to remember that one. I think there was like some old buildings and stuff and other rock formations. I remember not having service there. That's what I remember. And we have Bryce Canyon, super nice. I ended up hiking down to like the canyons. Took some great pictures there. I guess I'll just add it right there because I enjoyed that spot. Zion National Park, I was briefly there, but at the time, the main trail that they had, which was called the Narrows, it's like the most well-known hike for Zion National Park. There was like a rock slide, so they had it closed down. And then with COVID, I didn't want to get on like shuttles and stuff, and there's a lot of people there. So I ended up just like looking around the visitor center and taking pictures around that area, since you have to take a shuttle if you want to go on the hikes and stuff. But I ended up avoiding the shuttle system, and yeah. So I didn't really explore Zion National Park, but it was just like, I would recommend like Oregon and Washington. Those hikes and national parks were way better than Zion, in my opinion. Then I went to the Grand Canyon. So from Zion, I went to the Grand Canyon, and the Grand Canyon is, what state is that? Arizona. The Grand Canyon was not that special, to be honest. It looked very similar to a lot of places in the South. So I'm not sure what the deal is with the Grand Canyon. I spent a good time there, did the hikes and stuff, but to me it wasn't really special. Yeah, so I did the Grand Canyon. I think I went to Nevada, visited the Hoover Dam, just like a little drive-by, along with Vegas, etc. Around this time, I think think that was like in November or something like that. I kind of stayed at spots for a long time because I was like catching up on schoolwork or just wanted to relax. But I ended up, I think my last stop was Joshua Tree National Park in California. And then I went to some state park that was nearby, and that's where I ended like the road trip. I ended up not going to like the Death Valley, Sequoia, and Yosemite because I've been to those places before. And I think Sequoia had a fire as well, so things were closed off at the time. But yeah, that was my route, like kind of my route. Yeah, so that was my route. And then you guys already seen what my car looks like. How I lived out of it. I had a whole backpacking set up, so I was able to cook my food. Well, in the beginning, I used to cook my food outside of my car until it got to like the cold parts of the States where I rigged my way to cook inside my car. So I laid something down on my mattress and put the stove on top of that. Kind of dangerous, but it worked. I think I only spilled twice, which was unfortunate, but it was easy to clean up. To do my homework, I would try to do all my homework on like 1 day or 2 days or something like that, and I would sleep at Walmarts. Most Walmarts, they allow overnight parking, but you just have to make sure. I use this website called Allstays, which is like meant for like truckers and stuff and people with RVs, where you could check to see the reviews of people who stay overnight at places and see if like the policy allows it, their experience camping overnight, etc. So I used that app.